top is
1.5 inches.
it's 1.5 inches?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what's the diameter on these finials there? Or those, yeah.
About 3 inches.
3 inches?
Yeah.
Same way with the fluted columns?
Yeah.
All right. And what's the overhang here at the corner?
About 1/2 inch.
About 1/2 inch. What is it here in the center?
About 1.5.
1.5. Okay. And same on the bottom?
Yeah.
Okay. Plus it's got an OG detail around there. Okay. Okay. And it's got a rail along the front here that has a scallop in it. And it comes around here to this side. It has a scallop in it also that matches the scallop here on the top. Okay. And a scallop down the front of the top. And there's a detail here on the top where it has a bead at the top and down here at the bottom edge. So we want to make sure we get those in there.
Mm-hmm. So then it points and it goes down. Ooh, that's really harsh. Kind of like that.
Looks pretty good to me.
Yeah.
Okay. So why don't we go take a break and then we'll come back and put dimensions on all that.
Okay.
We'll have this panel to glue up. It's got 4 boards on it. And that means that I need to need to have glue joints between the boards. And for alignment, not necessarily for strength because they are 1 inch thick, but for alignment, I think the easy way for me to do this is to just use biscuits. Plates, I think is what they call them. So I use number 20 plates. They're the largest size that you can normally get. And I've already marked these. As you can see, I've got markings across the joints. And I'm going to put, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I'm going to put 5 of them in each board, each edge of each board. So that's 10, 20, 30 of them. From time to time, you'll notice that I only glue one of the surfaces that I'm adhering together. Whenever it's a load-bearing surface or something that I have to make sure has really good adhesion, I'll put it on both sides. So it's really important on this top that it has both sides glued. Another reason you might just put it on one surface is because you don't want the squeeze out to show up on your finish. I'm not really worried about that here because I'm going to have to do my final sanding anyway. So I'm going to put this glue on here pretty good, make sure it gets down in those slots so those biscuits have a good glue on them. But also I want you to pay attention to those clamps that I'm using. I've had those for quite some time. When you're gluing a surface together like that, it's really important that you put the pressure downward to align the boards that way before you put the pressure to squeeze them together. So these boards are actually made with a bow in the center so that it compresses the center first. Getting the glue spread without having it glaze over, starting to set up, is a little bit of a challenge. It's pretty warm here in the shop, and the glue that I have is a little bit old, so what I elected to do is just to glue 2 seams up to start with. That'll be 2 halves. I'll come back and do the center seam later. I'll let this set for 4 hours or maybe even overnight till tomorrow, and then I'll come in and start and do this center seam. It's pretty flush. Don't see any real cracks in it. I think it'll seal up okay. Looking down at those clamps there, you'll notice that it has red on the surface. Well, you know, when you're using wood glue to glue wood to wood and holding it together with wooden clamps, you end up with your clamps being a component of your part. So I take packaging tape, clear, red, whatever I've got around, and put that over the clamps to keep the parts from sticking to the clamps. So the top and the horizontal bottom rail have a scallop curve outline that is going to be cut into them. And then I'm going to take a router and trim it so it matches. And this is the template that attaches to both the top and that horizontal bottom rail. This is the side from back to front, and this is the front edge to the center, okay? And so what I'll do is I'll cut out this template and get it perfectly smooth and use it to guide that bit, that router bit. It's an edge trimming bit, or flush trim bit for the edge. And this will get the left side, and then I can flip it over and do a mirror image and get the right side. So I'm just going to cut that out on the bandsaw, and then I'll take it over to the oscillating spindle sander and get it smoothed up. So hang on, I'll sit up right here and you can watch. It's not very exciting, it's just bandsawing. Okay, so just so you understand what my thinking is here, is that this is one half, this will be the other half. When I flip it, we'll make the other half. You'll notice here at the front that this is the center line of the front. And you'll notice that this comes down deeper here because I will route one side. I'll cut the whole thing out. Then when I route it, I'll route one side and go past the center. Then when I flip it over, with proper positioning, I'm gonna have a center line mark on here on the other side, so that I can match that up to the center line. And then that will give me two perfect halves on that hole. Now, makes sense to me. I've tried making full-size templates before, and it invariably ends up that one side looks different from the other. Guess I could. Nah. Gonna make it this way. That was my plan. I'm sticking with it. Well, this is the top. This is the surface that will be up. I have the template on here, and I'm going to mark it. It's slightly oversized from one half the width of the top. So I'll mark it. I have the center line already marked here. I will flip it on this center line and align it on the other side. It's also marked on the other side of this template here. Feels pretty smooth. You'll notice in the center here, well, you probably can't see it, but it turns back up again. You do not want to try to mimic this curve into the center line and end up getting it lower and gouging out whenever you route it. So when you route past it, you'll be at 0, and then this will be negative. In other words, there won't end up being a mark where you gouge into it. So I'll go back and trace it again. Want a good heavy line here, because this template will go back on once I trim it off with the router and or trim it off with the saw. Probably use the saber saw, and then I'll put this template back on to route and get the edge smooth. So flip it. and align the center line. You'll notice as I'm putting this template on there that it's closer to the left edge than it is on the right edge. I did that because I wanted that pattern to match up, kind of in the center of the top. But that'll come back to haunt me. You remember those biscuits we put in? Well, they'll show up once again. Make sure I'm at the center line here. Yes, that'll work well. Okay. May not be able to see it, but this will be the outline of my top. Let's get a little closer and see what it looks like. So I wanted this pattern essentially in the center. Okay. And so it will be from here along the front. Here's that center line, and you'll notice that my marks cross over to 0 right there, and then it'll be along this edge right here. So that's now ready to cut out. I'll grab the saber saw and set up and get started cutting on that. I have 3 different power tools that I could use to cut out these parts, the top and the bottom rail, but I chose to use the saber saw just because this top is a pretty heavy piece, and it's a lot easier to move the saber saw over the surface of the part than it is to try to maneuver this through either the jigsaw or the bandsaw. So that's why I chose the saber saw. Well, I'm going to go ahead and route this top. I'll do it in 2 halves. I'll have to move the clamp several times. That's okay. All right. Turn that baby around this way. Just a little easier on me. Put my switch on the right side. You probably heard it said that all carpenters make mistakes, but the experienced ones know how to hide them. Well, those biscuits along the edge there are going to show up pretty bright. Fortunately, it's an end grain, and it's going to be kind of a little bit rougher than you would have if it was like the front edge, and it is the side. So I should be able to take and color it in and blend them in, especially because it has detail in there. So it's not a big deal. I'm not going to totally rebuild the thing, but I'll show you what it looks like after I get the touch-up done on it. We'll do that sometime during the finishing process. Well, got her all routed out. Got the profile on it I want. Do a little hand sanding. Then I've got on this top, I've got to do a little router detail around the edge here. So I think I'll save that for just a little while. Well, maybe while I got the router out and got this mess, I'll go ahead and do that routing. It's not a big deal, but I got to sand it first before I route it. So I think it's getting about dinner o'clock. Back at this tomorrow or the next day. Okay, I have the top set up here, and I'm going to be using an 1/8" radius beading bit. It looks like that. And what it will be is, this is the bottom. It'll be a bead along this edge here. Then I'll turn it over and put a bead along the bottom edge. It'll have a double bead on there. The top of it is set so that it blends, the radius blends into the top. It does not show a mark along the top. If it does show a mark, it's really not a big deal. It'll be shallow enough that I'll be able to sand it out. So I'm going to go ahead and route this out, and then we'll look at it whenever we get done with the time lapse. Okay, so this is what that detail looks like. It has a bead on each outside and then a flat in between. And I'll lightly sand this and get rid of any marks that there are, but it came out pretty good. So, all right, well, this top is now ready for final sanding, and I think it came out pretty good. I'm anxious to see what that grain looks like after I hit it with a little oil. This is the horizontal bottom rail that the feet support and that the nightstand itself sets on. They have a tongue and groove joint that hold them together. I'm going to go ahead and glue that up. I'm going to use tongue Tight Bond 3 glue, and it needs to be square, and then it will have the same shape on it that the top does. This area inside here has a groove that the slats will set in, and that will form the inside bottom of the stand itself. Well, I'm getting set up here to route this edge to match the template. The template is up underneath. You'll see the bit here is set up so that the bearing will follow along the template and will cut this edge so that it's a perfect match to the template. Got to do a few more things to get set up, and then I'll just put it on a time lapse. Well, that has my profile routed. It's not bad. Little hand sanding, and I think it'll match the shapes. Okay, so this is the horizontal bottom rail that I just finished up routing and then sanding this profile on the outside. It has a detail around this top edge here of a Romanoji, and as I mentioned several times in here, this is made along the plan so that it matches the chest that I made. And so it will have a Romanoji detail along this outside edge. I've got it set up, and I'm going to route that. I'm not going to lie, this top and this horizontal bottom rail were a little bit of a struggle for me. Making the top, I miscalculated and put the biscuits a little bit too close to the end so that they're going to show up, but oh well. We make mistakes, we live with them. I couldn't just grab another piece of lumber and put it in there because I really wanted this pattern to match with the chest and the doors on this nightstand. And then the base rail, I actually ended up having to take it apart and rebuild part of it because that thin template that I started using jumped off of the router bit and I made a big gouge in it. So I made a new template. But anyway, made it through this far. And I'm hoping it turns out okay. So if you'll stick with me, we'll keep you apprised as to how we work through all those details as I continue making this. Do appreciate you watching, and I hope you have nothing less than a wonderful day.